16 years, and this is how it ends.
Ethan, come here, sweetheart. I'm always here for you, you know that, right? Ethan, I need you to promise me something.
Anything, Mom.
No matter what happens, never hate your father.
But why would I hate Dad? Why would anyone hate Dad?
Because one day you'll find out what I never had the courage to tell him.
The envelope slipped from his hand.
3 months earlier, Marcus believed his marriage was slowly falling apart. The laughter that once filled their home had faded into silence. Every morning, the distance between them seemed to grow, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand why. It hadn't always been this way. Just a year ago, they laughed over breakfast, teased each other about the smallest things, and dreamed about growing old together. Now, silence had become the loudest voice in their home. Marcus tried everything he could think of: flowers, weekend dinners, long conversations. But every effort seemed to push her even further away. Every rejection chipped away at him. Soon, he stopped asking what was wrong, because he was afraid of the answer. What Marcus didn't know was that his wife was carrying a burden she believed would destroy the family she loved more than anything. The hospital visit was supposed to be routine. She had expected the doctor to tell her everything was fine. Instead, she walked out, carrying a secret that left her questioning everything about her future. She couldn't bring herself to tell Marcus. Every time she looked into his eyes, the words became too heavy to speak, so she smiled and pretended everything was normal. But secrets have a way of changing people. Little by little, she became quieter. She laughed less, and the woman Marcus fell in love with slowly disappeared behind a wall of fear. Marcus blamed himself. He replayed every conversation in his mind, wondering where he had gone wrong. He never imagined that the real battle wasn't against him. It was happening inside the woman he loved. The next morning, Marcus made a decision. He refused to watch his marriage fall apart without a fight. If something was wrong, he would do everything he could to fix it. That evening, he surprised his wife with a reservation at the restaurant where they had celebrated their first wedding anniversary. He hoped the memories would bring them back together. She tried to enjoy the evening. She laughed at his jokes, thanked him for dinner, and even reached across the table to hold his hand. But deep inside, the secret she carried refused to let her be happy. On the drive home, silence returned. Marcus kept both hands on the steering wheel, searching for the right words. Beside him, she stared out of the window, silently wiping away a tear before he could see it. When they got home, Marcus tried one more time. He told her how much he loved her and how important their marriage was to him. She listened without interrupting. Every word pierced her heart, yet she still couldn't tell him the truth. She was terrified that once he knew, nothing would ever be the same again. Days turned into weeks. Marcus kept trying to save the marriage, while she carried the burden alone, praying she would find the courage to finally tell him. One afternoon, the hospital called again. This time, they asked her to return for more tests. The fear she had been hiding suddenly became impossible to ignore. She arrived at the hospital alone. Every step down the hallway felt heavier than the last. Deep inside, she prayed the doctors would tell her there had been a mistake. Minutes later, the doctor returned with the final results. One sentence was enough to make the world around her stand still. She left the hospital without saying a word. The streets were crowded, but she barely noticed. Her mind echoed with the doctor's words, over and over again. That evening, Marcus noticed something he had never seen before. She stood in their son's bedroom doorway for several minutes, silently watching him sleep, as if she were trying to memorize every moment. Marcus couldn't sleep that night. The image of his wife standing silently in their son's doorway refused to leave his mind. For the first time, he stopped asking, "Why is she changing?" and started asking, "What is she going through?" The next morning, after she left for another hospital appointment, Marcus noticed something tucked inside the drawer of her bedside table. It was the same sealed envelope she had been hiding for weeks. His hand reached toward the envelope, then stopped. If he opened it, he would discover the truth. But if he didn't, he might lose the woman he loved forever. For several long seconds, Marcus closed his eyes. He wanted answers, but he loved her too much to betray her trust. Slowly, he pushed the drawer shut. That afternoon, Marcus received a phone call that changed everything. An unfamiliar voice introduced herself as a nurse from the hospital and asked if he was the husband of Mrs. Carter. The nurse apologized before speaking. "Your wife collapsed shortly after today's appointment. She's stable now, but she's been asking for you." Marcus's heart dropped. Without thinking twice, Marcus grabbed his keys and rushed out of the building. Nothing else mattered anymore. Not the arguments, not the silence, only getting to her. Minutes later, Marcus burst through the hospital entrance, breathing heavily. Every second felt like an eternity as he searched desperately for the room where his wife was waiting. A nurse led Marcus to a quiet consultation room instead of his wife's hospital bed. The moment he walked in, he knew something was terribly wrong. The doctor placed a medical file on the desk and spoke gently. "Your wife didn't want you to know until she was certain. She has been battling a serious illness for months, alone." Marcus felt the room spin. Every argument, every moment he thought she had stopped loving him, suddenly shattered into painful regret. When Marcus finally entered her hospital room, she looked weak, but the first thing she did was force a small smile. Even then, she was more worried about him than herself. Marcus couldn't hold back his tears. Every accusation, every cold word, every moment he believed she had stopped loving him came crashing down at once. All this time, she had been fighting for her life in silence. She smiled softly and whispered, "I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of leaving you and Ethan behind." Marcus shook his head through tears. "No, you're not leaving us. We're going to fight this together. From this day forward, you will never carry this burden alone again." Outside the room, Ethan watched through the small glass window. He didn't understand everything that was happening, but he knew one thing. His parents still loved each other. Every single day, Marcus showed up, not because he had to, but because he finally understood what love truly meant. Months later, the doctor walked into the room with words they had been praying to hear. The treatment worked. For the first time in a long time, everyone cried tears of joy. Marcus quietly tore the divorce papers into tiny pieces. Some mistakes deserve a second chance. Some love stories deserve another beginning. 1 year later, the house that once echoed with silence was alive again. Laughter had replaced arguments, and hope had replaced fear. She wasn't completely healed overnight, but every step she took reminded them that miracles sometimes arrive slowly. Marcus often thought about how close he came to ending everything, all because he never asked the questions he should have asked. Sometimes, the strongest marriages don't survive because life is easy. They survive because two people choose each other, again and again. Before you leave, remember this. Never let assumptions make decisions that love deserves to make.